Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 240 being recorded on February 27th, 2013. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
Josh always has the enunciation as if he is being presented in front of some kind of like formal jury or committee or something like that.
I would like to thank the Academy for this award.
It makes me sound like you're guilty of something.
Oh, he is.
Which is maybe all of the time, yeah. So it was an interesting week in the world of PC hardware. We're going to talk about the GeForce GTX Titan in terms of performance metrics and stuff that we didn't have before. We're going to talk about controversial frame rating data. Excuse me while I re-mute my phone. That also went up with that review. We'll mention the Hydro series stuff. We'll talk a bunch of other stuff too as well. But let's get to the most important thing, really. Are you playing PCPer Podcast Bingo along with us? If you're not, you should probably go to PCPer.com and look for the post that says Introducing PC Perspective Podcast Bingo. And there are two Ps, so it will make it a little bit more difficult. But they're unique anyway, so you just get to fill it out. Scott, in his hilarity, created this, so there are no prizes. It is not a drinking game. Take whatever risks you want.
What do you mean it's not?
Well, do whatever you want. So you can see some of these things here. If you get bingo, call it out in the chat room, and you will win absolutely nothing except the pride of all of your friends. Josh can't breathe. I don't know what that one is. So something is offensive. That's probably already happened.
He can't breathe because he's laughing so hard.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's
All right.
Also known as Muttley.
Something purchased from Amazon, arc welding. Someone is fired. Alan has unexpectedly relevant product in arm's reach. Josh has unexpectedly relevant product in arm's reach. So these are pretty good, and we'll edit it and play around with it. Ken suggested that we make like a Flash version of this game that you can actually play along, but that seems like a lot of work that I don't really feel like getting into. So. Let's move into the content for this week. The most important product is obviously the GeForce GTX Titan. We talked about it a little bit last week. That was like the preview part of it, where we could talk about the features, GPU Boost 2.0, the cooler, clock speeds, blah, 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 blah. But what we couldn't talk about was maybe the most interesting and most important thing, and that was the actual performance of the graphics card itself. And that Tom Peterson was here live in studio in all of his hilarity for a live stream event on there. And if you want to watch that replay, it's about 90 minutes. It's worth it. It's got a lot of good information in it, but it's also kind of funny at times too. So you can see that in our Titan performance review and on the first and last page there. So we already talked about Titan. It's a 384-bit memory bus, 2,688 shader, GK110 based product, very big GPU, about as big as you can possibly make on a 28 nanometer manufacturing process currently. 6 gigs of memory, huge amounts of memory, and it's a great card. Otherwise, we talked about GPU Boost 2, we talked about all that, and there's a whole lot more detail in the live review that we did with Tom, talking about what the differences are between GPU Boost 1 and 2, why 2 is better because it's based on temperature as opposed to power levels, and some of the detail that involved as well. So check that out if you missed it on last week's show or you missed it completely. Pricing wise, Titan's $1,000, $999 MSRP. The GTX 690 is the same price. The GTX 680 2GB is $459, and the HD 7970 GHz edition is $459. So what that kind of puts you in terms of your comparisons, you look at Titan versus 690 versus a single 680 and a single 7970, just to see single card fastest solutions, and then maybe you double up on the 680 and go, I can get two 680s for this. How does it compare to a Titan, two 7970s? We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And then eventually you get to this. We'll test this, hopefully coming up this week, where we get into our triple SLI testing with Titan as well. So I'm going to save this frame rating crossfire stuff for not another day, but just a different segment in a little bit. Let's look at a couple of performance metrics. This is, actually, let me go back here. And Battlefield 3, probably our go-to benchmark. We tested 1080p, not as important. Let's be honest. If you're buying a $1,000 video card, I actually got a specific email about this week. If you're buying a $1,000 video card, please don't only have a 1080p monitor. And if you do only have a 1080p monitor, I hope you have plans to upgrade to a 25 by 14, 25 by 16, or triple 1080ps or something like that. Some better, higher end, more expensive, more pixels display configuration than a single 1080p monitor. Because maybe with the exception of Crysis 3, a single 680 or 7970 gigahertz edition is going to be able to run anything you need to do at 1080p. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip ahead to 25 by 14 on Battlefield 3, and this is interesting. This is the interesting graph. This is a min and average graph, and so the blue bars are the average. So if you take a look at this, the 690 is actually still significantly ahead of the GTX Titan, but then the Titan is well ahead of the 680 and the 7970 gigahertz edition. Obviously, that means the Titan is by far the fastest single GPU card. Well, the 690 is the fastest card in total. Keep in mind the 690 has a pair of GK104 chips on it. So there, and we've got some frame time measurements. We'll get into a lot of that kind of stuff in a little bit as well. I know we've said it many times on this podcast and in other avenues before, but when comparable performance options are available, almost exclusively, I will recommend the single GPU solution over the dual GPU solution. We get into this debate a lot when, like, the $500 graphics cards launch. You're like, well, I can get two $250 cards, and they perform better than the $500 card. Shouldn't I get that instead? And if it's close, I almost always recommend the single card. And the same would be here because you don't have any variance in frame times, you don't have any potential stutter issues, you don't have any potential issues with that. If we look at Battlefield 3 SLI comparisons, again, we'll go down to 2560 by 1440. You can see we get this pretty even distribution, right, in terms of frame rates per second and how these cards compare to each other. And they scale really well. We go from 72 to 122 frames per second with Titan, and then 51 to 97 with the 680. And what's kind of interesting there is actually the 680 is scaling better. It's closer to 100% scaling than the Titan is, and I think that's because the Titan is such a powerful GPU that we are once again starting to maybe hit a lot of those CPU bottlenecks that you weren't hitting with any single GPU option out there, Radeon or GeForce to begin with. But if you look at this graph here, I'll actually click in and kind of zoom in on it. So it's a little bit kind of hard to understand maybe at first. So the blue line is a lot longer. That's the Titan SLI, and it's longer because there are more frames rendered in 60 seconds, right? The yellow line, which is a single GeForce GTX 680, is actually the shortest because it has the least frames rendered over 60 seconds. So you can't compare, you can't compare the blue line straight above and judge it against the yellow line. You got to look at the trends that it provides. And what you notice is that the blue lines have a lot more stutter in it. They have a lot more, not stutter necessarily, but frame time variance. And that is likely because of CPU bottlenecks that are maybe holding back some of the rendering pipeline on the GPU. Because that does not happen with the 680 SLI, which is the dark green. There's a little bit more frame time variance, but not as much as you get with the Titan there. So pretty good stuff there. Far Cry 3 has interesting results. Dirt 3, not as interesting of results. Sleeping Dogs is surprisingly hard on graphics cards. If we look here, you can see even at 1080p, the difference between a Titan and a 680 is pretty dramatic. But the 690 still comes out ahead if we just look at average frame rate. Same thing here at 2560 by 1440. And then in terms of games that actually scale with SLI, it turns out Sleeping Dogs is one of the best. 25 by 14, we're going from 32 to 63 frames per second. Almost clean-cut 100% doubling. And if you look at this graph here, not a whole lot of frame time variance to worry about in that case either. Crysis 3, we'll show you that real quick, just because I know that is a new important data point for people. Again, at 1080p, Titan faster than the 680 and the 7970, slower than the 690. But if you look at the 690 here in particular, that's the yellow line, a lot of frame time variance because you're working with a multi-GPU solution where not nearly as much on any of the single GPU cards. And let's see, same thing here, 2560 by 1440, big performance advantage. And then some less frame time variance, I can also say with the 690 there. I'm not going to go through any other benchmarks. Look at power consumption. It's actually pretty good in comparison. The Titan uses about 60 watts more power than a single GTX 680, but it uses almost the same power as an HD 7970. But it obviously outperforms that GPU pretty handily. And it's still far enough away from the power consumption of the GTX 690 that I think it would be considered an efficient solution there. And there you can see some of the SLI numbers. So even with a pair of Titans running an SLI with a Sandy Bridge E system and one SSD, not a whole lot else running on the system, we're under 600 watts. We're actually under 550 watts of total power consumption, which is pretty good. This is actually really impressive as well. Look at the sound level measurements that we got. The Titan is quiet. It is by far the quietest graphics card we have tested here. And in fact, if you look at the sound levels, a Titan SLI, two Titans running an SLI, is actually less noisy than a single GTX 680. And I find that to be pretty impressive. So let's end the discussion of just Titan right here, and I want to get some feedback on it. My general consensus is this is a, what do we call those types of products that you strive to own but you don't necessarily need? What do we call those?
Halo.
Yeah. So it's like expensive. Ken says. It's at $1,000 graphics card. Not a lot of people need to buy a $1,000 graphics card, and I don't want to recommend that everybody save all of their money and maybe eat one less meal a day for a month or two to save enough money to buy this instead of a 680 or a 670 or a 7970, whatever you were going to get. If you have the money, then this is the best graphics card you can buy, I think, in my opinion. There are still a lot of people that are going to argue the 690 is a better card. NVIDIA is keeping both these cards around, and their positioning is that the 690 is the single best single monitor graphics card, while the Titan is the best multi-monitor graphics card. And they come to that conclusion because of the 6 gigabyte frame buffer. When it comes into NVIDIA surround configurations where you're doing triple 1080p or even triple 1440 monitors, that 6 gigabyte frame buffer is going to do a lot better than the 2 gigabyte frame buffer that you get on the 690, right? You're getting 2 gigs per GPU. Now, the $1,000 price is great, but it's faster than the 7970. It's faster than the 680, but it's not 100% faster, right? It's not, in terms of, if you look at price per dollar, it's not going to turn out well for the GTX Titan. It's going to look much better for the 680 or the 7970. And for that reason, this is really that Halo product. It's really that product that people that are well off, maybe PC gaming is their life, building PCs is what they do. It might make sense for that. And obviously, if you're one of the people that buys an $8,000 gaming machine like this Geekbox rig, buying triple Titans, it just makes sense, right? I mean, if you're gonna go all the way.
And to think that just a few short years ago we were applauding the fact that there were no $1,000 video cards anymore.
And here are two more, courtesy of NVIDIA. And I don't know, you hear some stupid crap on the internet, like, this was what the GTX 680 was supposed to be. I hope all you guys that got your GTX 660s rebranded as 680s are happy now. And I hate that. It's just, you know what? That probably was the case, right? Let's say that. That probably was the case, but as it turned out, from a manufacturing capability and the time frames that they needed to be on, it just was never going to happen. And the 680 was still a great product. It was still faster than the 500 series. It was still faster than the Radeon 7000 series when it launched, and it had great performance, great power efficiency, all that kind of stuff. It was still a great product, and I hate kind of poo-pooing it because of the code names don't match up with what your preconceived notions of NVIDIA's product lines were supposed to be, which is actually why NVIDIA is getting rid of code names, specifically because of those people. They want to get rid of GK110, GK106. Like when GK116 and 117 and 114 happen, I really doubt if they're going to be called those names. We'll have to see to see what happens with that. So yeah, It's the same level of product that you were getting with the GTX 690, which means not a lot of people are going to buy it, but I think they're going to sell out. Have they sold out yet? Have you guys checked it all? Ken says yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
They've all sold out.
I don't think they even made it to market yet.
Yeah.
No, I saw some people posting links to Newegg with them.
Well,
in stock.
Newegg said it was going to be available 321 or 323.
Maybe they have sense. Maybe because I think only Asus and EVGA were selling them. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it's the type of thing where they're not going to make a whole bunch. So they're not going to come down in price. You're not going to find this next week for $800 or $900 or anything like that. Please don't.
And if you do, don't buy it.
Yeah, it's either stolen, which is whatever, or it's fake. In which case, you'll probably be able to figure that out. Don't buy it on Craigslist. So it's a good card. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think about the idea of? They basically took a GPU that had been released for several months as a Tesla product, a high-end Tesla GPU compute product, and repurposing it for a high-end product like this for consumers.
I think it's personally perfectly fine. Progress is good. If somebody's willing to buy it at that price, then they're making some margin and profit on that. I think since they already developed it for Tesla, and they made some money off of that, they're doing perfectly fine. Gives us a little bit more choice, and plus we're kind of looking at a desert ahead for about the next year when it comes to graphics card releases. So,
for the next what?
9 months, year?
I don't know about that. I don't know. Maybe that's what we heard from AMD essentially, but I really don't know anything about what NVIDIA's plans are. You would kind of assume that. AMD is very comfortable in their positioning with the 7000 series cards, especially the 7900 series cards, and NVIDIA hasn't been dropping prices on the 600 series cards, that's for sure. So they seem to be fairly comfortable as well. But I feel like there's surprises that could happen like this. This was kind of a surprise.
There's Malta coming up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the dual 7000 series that originally was New Zealand, then it turned to the 7990, and now it's codenamed Malta, and who the hell knows what they're going to brand it as. Yeah. And I don't even know what the difference is between.
I don't either. I have no idea. By the way, in our chat room, Jay Wolf says that he has a Titan and he bought it at Newegg, so they obviously were released for a short period of time, if nothing else.
Limit one per customer. But I got to say that one of the things that most amazes me about that card is just the drop in temperature and the drop in noise level. Yeah. It's amazing. Like, literally amazing. The 690 was, hey, it's brilliant, it's fast, it's loud, it's heavy, It
wasn't loud, but it wasn't as quiet, right? Because there were two GPUs on it, right? And I think
you're comparing it to 7970, which is, loud.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
When I had my triple Crossfire set up, going on the rig, it was a little obnoxious.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you over the fans.
Because it's an open air setup. It is really impressive, right? So a lot of that $1,000 charge that you're getting with this card is not necessarily for just the performance. Let's say half the price, let's say you're paying $700, $800 worth of performance if you compare it to the performance of a 680 or 7970. And maybe NVIDIA's justification for their part is they're using top-of-the-line cooler, they're using top-of-the-line fan. The acoustics on it are pretty awesome. Watch that video that I keep talking about, the live review.
Hey, it's got that hardened poly see-through window.
It does. It's got a window, so you can see all the dust build up. You can see all the dust build up on your heatsink. What NVIDIA wants people to think of this card as, look, you can put it in a super high-performance gaming rig. You can also put it in a small form factor mini ITX gaming PC.
It's tiny. Well, comparatively speaking,
it's 10.5 inches. It is small compared to like the 690 for sure. I think it's an inch and a half shorter or a full inch shorter. And it doesn't require two 8-pin connectors. It requires a 6 and an 8. It has 250 watt TDP on it, and it runs relatively quiet. And their whole GPU Boost 2.0 that focuses on temperature rather than power is interesting. When I was first briefed on it, I kind of felt like NVIDIA was sacrificing some enthusiast performance levels in order to meet this kind of vague, we want it to be a good, quiet experience metric. And I was like, well, okay, if you're a gamer, you maybe don't care about that. And I thought, this kind of sucks that they're sacrificing performance in order to make sure it fits into a small form factor rig. But if you use the tools, if you use Precision X or Afterburner or any of these other vendors' software, what you can do is really adjust it to whatever noise level you want, and then the performance will adjust accordingly. So I think in that live review I stated, if you're a gamer that has a system that's it's under your desk and it's a little bit over in the corner maybe, and you wear headphones, you're never going to hear your system no matter how fast that fan is going, and you don't give a crap what your roommate in the next room has to hear. So you go into the control panel and you adjust the fan level up to, I'm okay with up to 60 or 70% fan speeds. So go as fast as you can go, clock the GPU as high as you can go, and hit that temperature level that causes that fan speed. I don't care, right? But if you're the user that has a small form factor system or a mini or a micro ATX system that sits on your desk next to you, and you want to have speakers, you don't want to wear headphones, right? So the ambient noise definitely matters to you. You can turn that down, the fan speed down to a level where you decide you can't hear it anymore, and the GPU will automatically give you the most performance it can get to stay within that range of sound level. So it's interesting. I don't think it's perfect, and I don't think it's maybe ideal, but it's definitely an interesting way of looking at a product, and it's in a market where it's so easy to just go on who has the highest frame rate, and that kind of stuff. It's interesting to see these different kind of dynamics being built into a product, like at the engineering level, at the product base level. It's pretty cool stuff. Maybe more interesting to many people, including me, after the Titan review went up, we actually included this page in the review, but I posted it again after the fact to kind of give it a little bit more focus. And that was part 3 of our frame rating series. This is our kind of new system to capture game data, measure performance, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully you've been following along. If not, this is the kind of stuff that you're getting. Go to PCPer.com and you can look up this story, and you can track back and watch part 1 and part 2. Part 1 we kind of describe the hardware. Part 2 we kind of describe the ideas behind it. And then in part 3 here is the first time we're ever showing results. And the reason I wanted to write this is I did not include 7970 Crossfire results in our GTX Titan review. And I knew as soon as I made that decision a couple of days before the NDA went up that it was going to cause some problems. Readers were going to accuse me of being biased towards NVIDIA, that we weren't giving AMD their fair shot at performance metrics, and the honest reason why I decided not to do it, I tried to write it out and explain it as well as I could on this page of the article, but all the testing that we did for this article was done using Fraps, capturing frame times using Fraps, and in a single GPU scenario, the data you get from Fraps and the data you get from our frame rating system are very similar, if not identical. However, I had been doing a lot of testing with, basically I had been testing both ways as I went along for this review, and it became obvious to me that under Crossfire, multiple 7970s looked different in Fraps than they did in the frame rating system. And sometimes they were close and sometimes they were not close. But I didn't want to make a bunch of graphs and write a bunch of stuff and present an argument to our readers on where Crossfire stood versus SLI, knowing what I knew, which was that I didn't necessarily 100% believe in those metrics, right? And so it felt disingenuous to promote those results to people, knowing that I didn't really believe in them, but holding back because I couldn't quite tell everybody the whole story yet. So I thought the best solution was to not post those results at all, post a little preview of why that is the case, with the promise of a full explanation in the not-too-distant future. So that's what this page is about. So this is the first time we ever showed the overlay and how that works. So here's a screenshot of the overlay. All it does is it basically puts a bar on every frame as it's coming out of the game engine. And then, because we have VSync disabled, you'll see multiple bars, colors, essentially, in this column on the screen. So here you can see we have a fuchsia and a yellow, and if you look real close right here, you can kind of see where there's a VSync tear line, right? So that's a particular screenshot. Here's another screenshot, and this shows the case where there is a problem. Here you see almost the same scene in Battlefield 3. You'll see this maroon bar, and then you'll see this silver one, and then you see this purple one. And what's important to notice, if I can scroll down and kind of zoom in on here, the silver bar is very skinny. It's very small, right? But you can see if you look kind of like at his wrist and the gun level right here, if I maybe zoom in a little bit more, you can see that there is indeed 3 frames between the word "this" and the bottom of the screen. And that is the problem, is that these slivers count the same to fraps and in the average frame rate than this maroon frame does. And it's very obvious just from looking at this image that in terms of animation, in terms of smoothness, in terms of what performance you're actually seeing, that they are not equal in value at all. So here's a graph right here. It shows Battlefield 3. These are frame rates over time as shown by fraps. Red line on the bottom is single card, red line at the top is dual card, green on the bottom, single card, green on the top, dual card, 680 versus 7970. Now it looks like you would expect, SLI scales, Crossfire scales. So here's that same data, but with our method of removing runts, is what we're calling them, frames that are under a certain threshold of pixel length, so that I decided that they don't really add to the animation, they don't really add to the experience that the gamer has. If we take those frames out, you can see that the 7970 and the 7970 Crossfire graph look very similar now. They kind of give you the apparent, the observed frame rate of a single card. And if we kind of show that here again, notice that these are frame times. This one up top is from fraps, this one is from our frame capture. And both fraps and frame capture show you that the Crossfire has very highly variable frame times. Switches back and forth between high frame rate, low frame rate, high frame rate, low frame rate, but many times within the same second. If you look at it under our frame capture system, you get this. And it's much more dramatic. We scale basically from 0 milliseconds of actual on-screen time for that particular frame all the way up to, in the 20s and I think, in the 25s.
Damn, AMD is painting that graph red.
They are indeed.
They're going wild all over that graph.
They are indeed. And if we zoom in on that, this is what we see. It's a little bit more dramatic there. And you can basically what this means is our average would be right there. The average of this for Crossfire, if you looked at fraps, average over time, not average on a frame time basis, it would be kind of like that green line, like right in the middle. Actually be a little bit lower, indicating lower total frame times, indicating better performance. But that's because it's averaging, 0 to 20. What's that average out to? 10, which is going to be faster technically than what the SLI is showing.
But on a scarily mathematically predictable way.
Right. And it's different for every game. To be honest with you, this is not the worst case for AMD. It's not the best case for AMD. There are some games that work great, and there are some games that actually work worse for Crossfire. And it's because of that we didn't show our results yet. Here's a couple of more screenshots. So here is a 7970 Crossfire result again. And if we scroll down here, you'll see yellow, this tiny orange sliver, and then white. So there's 3 frames there. It's hard to see because it's actually stationary, so the breakups don't happen. Here's another one. This one actually is a little bit more apparent. So we've got this gray, fuchsia, yellow, and if we zoom in here, what's interesting is that you can see that there is this break here, right, in this vertical line. So there's definitely 3 frames being shown on the screen, but this one in the middle is not adding to your experience at all. There's not enough of it being displayed on the screen for it to even matter.
I would say it makes it even worse because it's going to make your tear more obvious. It's 2 layers of a tear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like 2 pixels shifts over happening. It's just going to make it stand out that much more.
And you know what? There's the potential that we could learn a lot more from this stuff Like Scott has posted something recently where he talked about his results versus our results from this, and there's a whole lot of still to discuss and to debate about it, and I highly encourage everybody to read all of his stuff, read all of our stuff, read everybody's stuff, and kind of figure this out together. Because if we zoom in here on this particular spot, I know this is getting harder and harder to do, and especially being compressed over a stream. What's interesting is that the distance between these two breaks in the line are very close, like they're very evenly matched. And so does the game engine think the same amount of game time has passed between the top frame and the middle frame and the bottom frame? And if it does, then it's doing a disservice to the gamer, maybe even more so than we can tell. And that gets into a lot more of the theory behind it that we just need more time to dive into and try to explain and try to detail on our own before, presenting final arguments to it. But it's very interesting. I bet I've generated 10 terabytes worth of video data on this system over here. Allyn, you'd be proud. 10 terabytes worth of video data, capturing this stuff, analyzing it, trying to figure it out, and then compressing it to MP4 for archival, because SSDs, which is what we need to capture this data at 400 megabytes per second, are not cost efficient for long-term video storage. So I talked a lot about that, and I know we've already gone through a long time in our podcast talking about just Titan and frame rating, but I felt like they were very important topics. What kind of feedback
do you know what this means, Ryan?
No, I don't. Do I?
At this point, you are no longer allowed to call Josh long-winded.
No, I think I'm still allowed to do that. If we average it out like fraps, you will see that my spikes are very high and very low. Josh's are consistently high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, have you noticed, though, that remember back in the 3DFX NVIDIA days, around GeForce 2 time, original GeForce, that a lot of people complained about, even though we got high average frames per second from the NVIDIA hardware, the 3DFX stuff just seems smoother. So I think it's kind of funny that we've now seen kind of the opposite situation here, and that NVIDIA is now developed their drivers and hardware so that they have, smoother, more consistent output, and phones ringing. That's really loud. Than what ATI and AMD does. So I think that's kind of interesting. And another question for you, Ryan. How does this turn out when you turn VSync on? I know you won't be able to see the individual frames in the one shot and frame times, but how does that help, like AMD, in terms of the frame time average?
So it will definitely make AMD's solutions look better, because you only need to have 60 frames per second in order to max out a 60 hertz monitor. And that's, to be honest with you, that I am in the process of getting one of those 120 hertz 2560 by 1440 displays to kind of analyze that very specific topic. The problem with VSync is obviously you have to either run at 60 hertz, which you either have to have 16 millisecond frame times, or you have to have a derivative of 60 hertz. So 30 frames per second, which would be 33 milliseconds, or you have to have 20 hertz, which is what, 20 milliseconds? No, I did that wrong. 50 milliseconds, right? And so you'll get these jumps. You won't have anything in between. And so what helps AMD in that case, or any time where you have frame time inconsistencies, is that they kind of get washed away, because it just takes whatever frame is most current at the beginning of that scan from the monitor. So that will definitely hide a lot of stuff. But what a lot of people don't realize is if you don't like stutter, if you notice stutter, VSync is not going to make that go away unless you are pegged at 60 the whole time. If you're playing a game like Crysis 3 that deviates between, maybe if you had VSync turned off, you would go between 60 and 40 and 60 and 40 and 60 and 40. With VSync on, you're going to go 60-30, 60-30, 60-30, and you're going to see that, because what you're going to have is you're going to have a long frame, short frame, short frame, long frame, short frame, short frame, short frame, and some kind of pattern like that will emerge, and it will not be a smooth animation. You won't have tearing, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a smooth animation. So even with VSync, there are things to consider. I think with VSync turned on, these two solutions they'll look a little bit better.
You're setting yourself up for a whole new set of benchmarks.
Oh no, I've already been running them. Like I've already got a lot of data with VSync on. The issue becomes nobody benchmarks with VSync on, right? When you look at a graphics performance review, go look at any Titan review that's come out, and I bet you will see close to zero results with VSync enabled.
So have you benchmarked Titan with Doom 3 BFG, which goes to 120 hertz?
No. No.
Have you noticed the thing that drives me crazy when you do have VSync on, and this does vary from game to game, but it seems to noticeably increase the input lag?
It depends on the game and the solution, but
Right.
it can do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's exactly, and that's because even though you're only seeing one frame every 16 milliseconds, maybe it's rendered 3 frames.
Exactly.
It could have displayed 3 frames in that time. In which
Yep.
case, the game engine, what you're seeing is behind by 2 or 3 frames, as opposed to what the game engine is at, and that's the input lag, the input latency that you see.
Yep.
And that's why a lot of people play without VSync turned on. And
It
then
almost
you get
makes it
back to the original
unplayable.
problem. It
I
can.
mean, when you
yeah.
add like 3 frames, that's a lot of
Yeah.
delay.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. There's a whole lot more to kind of work on and talk about and dive into about it. And I have a Google Doc that I have been writing like subheadings for, like kind of an outline for the full story, and it's big. It's big already. Like, and I haven't even started writing. It's all outlines, like notes to myself. Oh, make sure when I'm writing this section, we talk about, vertical line variance and frame tears, right? And how does that affect?
Is it big in terms of length or girth?
I'm gonna go with both.
Okay.
It's gonna go. Put that down. If you're playing bingo, that's an innuendo. If that's a square. Is it a square? Hopefully, we'll see. So terrible pun. Okay, yeah. Thank you. So yeah, we've got that. There's a lot on that. It's not going to be next week or anything like that. So please offer up your feedback. There's been threads on all kinds of different forums talking about it, and I have read almost all of it. Most of it seems very positive. The stuff that is not positive is more inquisitive. Nobody's called me an idiot for this, which is a positive thing, I guess.
Not in front of your face.
Well, yeah.
You haven't read all those comments, have you?
No, I've tried to read all the comments. That's the thing. So, all right. So we will talk about that more eventually. Not too long, I promise. Not too long. One last thing, one last review to mention before we get to our sweet advertisement for this week is Maury posted a review of the Corsair Hydro Series H90 and H110 140 millimeter liquid coolers. These are very similar to the other, was it the H80 and the H100, essentially, that Corsair released, but these are 20 millimeters bigger per fan. And actually turns out to mean quite a bit for the performance of these coolers. These aren't the i versions, though, which I was a little bit, like, they don't have any fan controls, they don't have any fancy lights on them.
Yeah, but they cool.
They do cool, which I'm a fan of.
Cool like the wind.
So let's take a look at, let's see, fan noise. It's obviously going to be a little bit higher on the 110 than the H90, but not too bad. But see, here we go. Here's our overclocked cooler. The H110 was the best by 3 degrees being the H90 and beating out the H80i by 8 degrees C as well. So pretty good stuff, considering they're about the same price as the 120 millimeter versions, pretty close. So if you're okay not getting the Corsair Link integration, if you're okay not getting the LED Corsair logo on it, this might be kind of like your best choice. But you need to make sure your case supports it. Not all cases support 140 millimeter or 280 millimeter radiators, so make sure you double check that beforehand. Yeah, I don't know. The only negative that he could come up with was that galvanic corrosion potential with mixed metal aluminum radiator and copper CPU block. So,
It's a thing.
It is a thing. It is a thing. But if that's pretty much what you come down to,
It shouldn't be an issue with that long of a stretch in the lines between the two.
I think they make
Fair.
contact at some point. But I don't know.
The radiator and the cooler, no, they got the two lines separating them.
Well, he had a picture of it before, but I'll leave that to you to research for me. I don't figure out. But it did get editor's choice. Both of them got that. So if you're looking for new liquid coolers, try that out. Let's say hello to our friend from MSI, Alex, who has a special product to talk to us about.
The all-new Z77 M-Power mainboard from MSI is poised to change the overclocking game. Every Z77 M-Power board will have a factory 24-hour military-class burn-in test completed before shipping. Additionally, performance-optimized features such as Go-To BIOS, Multi-BIOS 2, V-checkpoints, Bluetooth 3.0, and onboard Wi-Fi allow users convenience and total system control over their overclocking and gaming experience. This is the new endurance champion, Z77 M-Power from MSI.
Thank you, Alex, once again.
So when's he
Yeah.
showing up next?
I don't have the exact date here with me yet. It should be next month. It will be, well, and we're almost into next month, so it could be any day, guys.
He'll show up on your doorstep.
It could be March 1st.
Yo, dog, I heard you were going to the Cats game. Too bad. Let's go record a commercial.
There's only one more. We've only got one more home game. Only got one more home game. Regular season's almost over for Kentucky.
Priorities, Ryan.
Oh, I've got him. All right, let's talk about some news. We'll try to. We won't linger on a bunch of these. Jeremy, you like triangles?
Well, I like triangles. NVIDIA loves triangles. And honestly, the proposed new buildings that they've got going are looking really nice.
They could have at least have tessellated those buildings a little bit better. I mean, they've got the GPU performance to do this. Why are there these giant triangles? Let's improve that mesh, make it a little bit finer.
Who was it in our chat?
Oh, Howco is like this famous architect, and he told them it just wasn't going to work that well.
So who was it? So somebody in the chat in our campfire said there needed to be an SLI bridge between the two buildings.
There really should be.
And I actually thought that was really good. What I know about the building is that all the parking is underground, and that the top level that is like the atrium, there apparently are no offices. It's all like natural light that comes down and filters into the offices below it, and it will be multiple floors. But there will be like gaps in the I don't know how to explain it. Like, so one floor will have a big gap, and then there will be an office below it, but it'll be kind of like a staggered pattern so that everybody, even on the bottom floors, are getting some amount of natural light.
Yeah, because I heard that the natural light coming from the ceiling worked really well for what was that company? Ion Storm Dallas?
Oh, there's a couple of them that have done it.
John Romero's
Love it.
little outfit where they ended up just putting up giant tents around their cubicles because nobody could actually see their monitors very well.
So here's a question for you. Is there a pattern of companies that build giant offices and then go out of business?
Oh,
3D
never.
Effects never did.
They never built a giant office,
No.
but they went out of business.
Yes, they did.
Think about companies that maybe built palatial estates in like Silicon Valley area, and then kind of soon thereafter.
Nokia.
Yeah,
Nokia is still around.
yeah, but they're down, way down.
Oh, they're way down.
Yeah.
Oh, the amount of requests I got for 8Xs today.
Keep in mind,
Or no, that's HTC. But anyways, before
Yeah.
we wander off this, I just love Jen Sun's description that they almost needed bunk desks at their current location, which is across the street from this new one.
you can see one of the buildings in that picture.
Yeah, there are so many people working at NVIDIA in that tiny little thing with the
Well,
it's not quite unhappy face, but
that's
soon
one
to
of
be
their
an unhappy face.
buildings. I think they have 6 buildings in that campus. So they're still going to keep that campus, but you can tell, I mean, this was one of their bigger buildings on that campus, and this is the new one. There's obviously
So if you
a
get hired by
difference.
NVIDIA and you go to the old building, you know they don't like you
You
that
know
much.
you don't rate, right, exactly. No, we're going to keep your cube on this side,
Yeah.
John. So just hang out here. It's totally cool. We'll be right across the street, hanging out at the good cafeteria.
One day we'll build an SLI bridge over so you can come visit us.
Let's talk about the Chromebook Pixel, which is a... Is it 13 inches, really? 12.8
You want to know what the
inch?
price per inch is?
No, that's information Josh needs. What's the resolution of the screen? 2560 by 1700. How was that not in
Yep.
this news post? Scott, are you listening to me?
Oh, me show.
He's fired.
Oh, Ken claims another square.
No.
Not on there. Okay, yeah, you're fired.
You might not be an intern now, but you still can't fire people.
So
Ken.
anyway, 2560 by 1700, less than 13-inch screen on a Chromebook. This is a laptop that does not actually have an operating system. What do you think?
$1,300.
Okay, that's not a thought. That's a fact. What is your thought, though?
High definition photography.
My thought is, what are they smoking?
Photography, like, what do you mean photography, Josh?
Candid photography. Hint, hint, nudge,
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more.
Oh, yes, the
Say
webcam.
no more.
Webcam. My issue with this is that you don't have a laptop that can run programs. Like, I was like, this is a great screen for photos. Damn it.
But does it run programs?
It's
No,
an Ivy,
but it is pretty.
and it's got great hardware, right? It's got an Ivy Bridge i5.
Bro, do you even app?
I can play Angry Birds Star Wars on it, though. It's got an Ivy Bridge processor, 32 gig SSD. If it had a bigger SSD, I would start to say, hey, can we put Windows on this?
Oh, I think you can get 128 for about 1,500.
Really? Okay. Ken saying 64 gig for about that.
Oh, God, is it only 64?
And it has the LTE.
Take
That's
it
the one that
back.
has the LTE radio. Because, I mean, if this had 120 gig SSD, 128 gig SSD, and that super high-res screen, Ivy Bridge, Intel HD 4000 graphics, 4 gigs of RAM is okay. I would like it to be 8. But, you can... This would be a great machine that has similar specs to the MacBook Pro Retina, right? But is like $1,000 less? Right? That's compelling. That would be awesome. But then they put Chrome OS on it. Yeah, we need to know if it has a soldered-on SSD. Allyn, do some research.
Okay.
What'd you find?
I'm on it.
So time's up. What'd you find?
I didn't.
Oh, okay. Somebody
I was
ripped this
actually
apart.
looking today.
Has
by the way.
iFixit maybe ripped it apart? Yeah, they were shipping, I thought.
Well, I think they're shipping, but they haven't shipped.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think iFixit has one. Even iFixit hasn't flown to Australia to do this.
All right, well, let's talk about something else then, a graphical description of market woes from John Petty. Jeremy, you want to explain what JPR is telling us this week?
Well, as if last week's news, when they took the entire graphics market, which includes Intel and AMD's APUs, and the drops we saw there, this week has been even worse news. I mean, on the plus side, the enthusiast market is up. There are more of us buying enthusiast-level cards. Problem is, there's not many of us. So overall, the market declined over 17% for add-in cards, which is, well,
Bad.
in a way, ridiculously nasty, in a way, not necessarily indicative of future market trends because, hey, we're coming out of some nasty economic times, or at least I hope we are.
I know of
But,
at least
it's been rough.
one viewer to our live stream that is laughing.
Who actually
about
has a
this. No, who is laughing about this news post right now. I can verify at least one viewer who is chuckling to himself while we talk about this.
Well, it's a good thing because that's
you
what I
know,
was aiming for.
Well,
We sort of see that NVIDIA still has a huge chunk in the market.
yep.
It's a shrinking market, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, they're only down about 10% because this does tend to historically be a relatively bad quarter for sales.
Sure.
But still down 10% from last time, down 17% from the previous quarter. It's looking a little rough.
Josh, how much do you think of this is in relation to the lack of a regular cadence of graphics card releases?
I think very little.
Really?
Yeah, because integrated graphics have come so far that there are just some people. I know a guy who just plays WoW on his TV, and he just wanted to get an APU, so he got a 5800K. Plays it, he's happy at 1080p. He doesn't need huge amount of, really. He doesn't care about anti-aliasing. Doesn't care about really heavy-duty pixel shader effects. And I mean, he's playing WoW, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
Wow.
What does he need a good graphics card for?
Yeah, so why spend an extra $200 on a build when he could, get a bunch of extra hard drives, have all that storage for videos, movies, whatever. You could buy a nice keyboard and mouse for a fraction of that, all wireless. I mean, there's so many other things that they can do with that money that the average user is needing less and less graphics horsepower because integrated graphics are just getting so good. Now, a counterpoint.
They're good enough.
Counterpoint. Ooh, okay.
A
let's go.
counterpoint
All right.
is that now that we've got the PS4 and the Xbox Infinity or whatever the hell they're gonna call it, that's going to raise the minimum to a lot of games to a higher level. So we might actually see an upswing in non-integrated graphics being bought up because we finally got games that. The PS4 is pretty graphically beefy. It's like a 7850 in terms of what it can put out. And now that we've kind of raised that minimum, the PC can take a little bit more advantage of that. And plus, those parts are really programmed pretty close to the metal, so they get better performance overall per millimeter square of die size as compared to a standard Windows-based PC graphics card. So we might see a little jump because we've got games coming out that will push graphics as compared to the 2005 level Xbox 360 and PS3.
Yeah, I'm still worried that people are just not going to pick them up, or if they do, they'll be for the console.
Well,
Which, still, hey, good for AMD, because that console sale is a good sale for AMD.
sure. Yeah.
But we're losing the low-end market, and the low-end market was unfortunately the huge market for these graphics companies.
Yeah.
Everyone bought a built system at the old generic computer store.
They didn't break down.
Which had,
Sorry, they didn't break down like the loss by category or anything in this report, did they? Because I'd be curious
if we paid the full price, I'm sure they did.
I'm not doing
but
that shit.
I mean, the huge loss has been in the low end.
Yeah.
Because that is the volume sales.
It's a volume, but it's also the low margin. So I'd be curious how much of percentage-wise their margins or sales have gone down. It's obviously disappointing to me. I want discrete graphics to be a strong, healthy market. I've just heard so many people talk about playing games on the PC again over the last year, and I think Ken will agree with me. We listen to a lot of game podcasts. That's how I keep up on a lot of the gaming news. And so many people that only played on the 360 and the PlayStation, I would say in the last year and a half to 2 years, have been building new PCs. They've been talking about buying a GTX 680 and upgrading from this other stuff, and they're all getting back into PC gaming because...
Yeah, just wait until the next Halo comes out.
Well, that's not going to be until November, right? So I mean, there's a healthy amount of time between now and then. And
well, what about Destiny?
That's going to be a console launch title too.
No, it's going to be PC, isn't it?
It'll be on the PC, but I don't think it's going to release before those new consoles are out.
Oh, okay.
That'd be my guess.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, and it may not even be in 2013.
But here's the thing. I mean, you could have had any DirectX 11 card for the past 3 years and run a vast majority of games at pretty high levels.
But a lot of people don't know that. Like, a lot of people didn't start to see... look at Crysis 3 and what it looks like on a PC versus what it looks like on a... I forget which website had a video. They did side-by-side of Xbox 360 versus a high-end PC on Crysis 3. And the difference is substantial. And a lot of people that watched that PS4... launch press conference. What was the really good game they showed? Was it Sleeping Dogs?
Well,
no, not. What was the?
Well, to cut you off there,
game?
Scott's demonstration of the Unreal 4 engine.
Dogs. Yeah, but I mean, look
PC
at,
versus console. I mean, there's glaring differences.
A lot of people saw Watch Dogs demo at E3 the video, not the demo, but the video of Watch Dogs at E3 last year, and they thought, wow, that is amazing. We're going to see that in a year and a half or a year or whatever it was. And then they started to look at PC games today and saw, okay, well, you know what? Now that demo that they showed at the PS4 launch event is much less impressive looking. It doesn't look next gen. It looks like current PC games. And I think more and more people are starting to understand that and want to get back into the world of PC games. I think maybe we'll see. I don't know if that's a dramatic enough to change any of these product swings one way or the other. But I get the feeling that the mainstream and above are actually increasing in sales, while the mainstream below is the one that's losing all this market share. Let's move on to about some other things. Josh, we got a little bit more information on NVIDIA's Tegra 4 and Tegra 4i graphics configurations that they basically launched, and well, they didn't launch, but they talked about at Mobile World Congress this week.
Yeah, it's nice that we finally got this information. We just were told, hey, this Tegra 4 has 72 cores, and Tegra 4i has 60, and we're like, well, how in the hell is that divided up? We knew that they weren't unified shaders, but we just had no idea what it was. Well, it turns out it's 48 pixel shaders. They're VLIW based, they're VEC4 based, and then 12 vertex shaders. So this is kind of like, what would it be? The early, the DirectX 9 based hardware that we saw with like the GeForce 6800 series. I think that, I can't even remember. It was 16 pixel shaders and something like 2 vertex shaders or 4. I cannot remember exactly what it was, but they divvied them out so you had more pixel shaders than vertex, and this is essentially what they've done. Now the problem with this is it's not OpenGL ES 3.0 compliant because it features FP20 rendering. Now we haven't talked about this in ages because everything runs internally at FP32. If you remember back in the GeForce FX days, they had matching. Well, they had FP16 and FP32 rendering for NVIDIA, and then on the ATI side, they all did FP24. They said FP24. It was essentially identical to FP32, but better performance. Better power features, smaller die size because of this. And so it's kind of interesting to see again NVIDIA saying, hey, you know what? FP24 is even too much. Let's go down to FP20. It's again more power efficient, more die size efficient, and OpenGL ES 3.0 requires FP32. So it has all these features that are supported under 3.0 ES 3.0, but they don't have kind of the main one. So they're not entirely compliant as compared to the Mali 600 series, then the Adreno 300 series, and then the new PowerVR 600. 6 series. All of those support, the higher end rendering. Now, if we look at the previous Tegra 2, they had a 4 and 4 shader setup. So it was 4 vertex shaders, 4 pixel shaders. Tegra 3 was 4 vertex shaders, 8 pixel shaders. And this one, it's a big jump going up from 8 to 48, as well as a bunch more vertex. Plus, with the Tegra 4, you've got kind of the 4 pixel pipelines. So it can output 4 pixels per clock as compared to Tegra 3, which could do 2. And Tegra 3 was, pretty middle of the road in terms of graphics performance as compared to some of the other guys. But this new Tegra 4, it's going to be class leading with current software. Now, of course, in 2 years when we start seeing OpenGL ES 3.0 stuff, it's not going to be able to do it. But until that point, how often do you swap out your mobile devices that perhaps use these?
Right. Not very often. I would say not very often for most people.
Unless you bought one of those Surface RTs.
Yeah, I did that.
Kind of.
I did do that.
Yeah. So anyway, we finally have a little bit more granularity in what we're looking at. There's a better memory controller with this new chip. Better process technology is 28 nanometer versus 40 nanometer. And so when you have clock speed advantages plus all the extra units involved, it's going to be a much better performing part than pretty much anything out there, even the mighty Apple A6.
That's good. No, I mean,
Fascinating.
when we saw it at CES, we didn't really have any of that detail.
No.
So, I don't know. I just don't know what games, like, I don't know. I just don't know how much I believe in the Android game market yet. For that to take off, and I don't think you need that much compute power necessarily to do the stream decode that NVIDIA Shield wants to do.
Well,
for your
how
PC
about the
games.
photography?
Yeah,
Because they do utilize the Pixel
Okay.
and Vertex shaders for that kind of work.
For that awkward photo demonstration that Jensen
Yes.
did at the press conference at CES. Whew.
He has a great jacket.
Can we find a video of that? I want to play that at the end of this episode. I wanna watch that whole thing.
Jump on that motorcycle, Jensen.
Okay. Getting into our last couple of things, Scott made a post yesterday on the Unreal Engine 4 demo that they showed at the PlayStation 4 launch event. It's the same demo they ran at, let's see, what is it? The end of E3 last June, and his claim is that the demo actually got worse looking. If you look at this animated GIF that he made, that's the PS4 version, PC version. PS4, it's kind of hard because, again, we're looking at an animated
Look
GIF.
at the size of those particles on the PS4. They're large, and there's not many.
Yeah.
Ooh, lots of small particles.
Yeah.
Pretty.
So his claim is, well, you can actually, he's got links here. You can go watch the demo that runs on a PC versus what it runs on a PS4. I think the one on the PC is running on a GTX 680. And he says, as you can see from the animated GIF above, particle count appears to have been struck the worst. The eyes contain none of the particle effects in the PS4 version. There appears to be an order of magnitude or two more particles in the PC version than on the PS4. There are no particle effects around the eyes on the statue. Whole segments of particles are not even rendered.
The lighting effects are borked. There's a lot going on there.
Add Muppet reference to
Bork.
the bingo list. Yeah, thanks. So it's interesting. We talked about the PS4 specs last week, and it is high-end hardware, especially compared to the consoles that are out today. But how much of a downgrade is it compared to high-end PC hardware? But how much of a downgrade is it from a PC that you can buy for $600 today? Right? That's maybe the question that needs to be answered to, and there is some lively discussion going on in that comment section. about
Hybrid
it as well.
crossfire.
That's
dear
that's not
Lord.
a good idea. That's
Still probably looks better than the PS4.
I wonder
I doubt
what the frame rating on Hybrid Crossfire.
we
would
had
be.
we had some comments, interestingly unrelated to what your comment was, but where I thought your comment was going to go. We had some requests to do frame rating on consoles, and I think it'd be a really good idea. But we would have to get like a developer console and be able to I mean they'll use DirectX, I assume. No, I guess Microsoft
No,
one would.
OpenGL on PS3.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
OpenGL.
OpenGL. So we'd have to have a different overlay technology. But we can capture data the exact same way.
But
Yeah,
it's
we could
30
do it on the
frames
Xbox,
a second. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard to peg that.
Doesn't
You can just
necessarily
make a
have to be
few,
30. They could
do a
60.
few frames by hand. You don't necessarily need software.
True.
Well, the capturing software is done, right? It's the hard part is getting the overlay onto a console, right? 'Cause
Right.
it has to run as a background app, which I'm sure you could do on a dev kit, Durango or Orbis or whatever.
What I'm saying is you could just get the frames, and then if you're doing a horizontal pan, you could just pick out the tears.
Well, it's all V-synced anyway in the console.
well then there shouldn't be any
that's
tears.
true. Yeah, that's true. So, hey, speaking of Allyn, let's talk with Allyn about
Hi.
Micron SAS SSDs and
Yes.
I don't know, whatever the hell that means.
So Micron is making 6 gigabit SAS SSDs.
All right, moving on.
That's
Okay.
fascinating. Could
That's
you
it.
tell us more about it? What kind of chips are they using?
What kind of chips are they using?
You know what I'm saying?
It's chips.
I'm going to kill you. I am going to drive down to San Antonio.
Make it more exciting, Alan. Damn it.
Shove SAS down your throat, if you know what I mean.
SAS is really just
why
not
is
much
this
more
important?
exciting than SATA.
Why is
I'm
it not
sorry.
important?
What? No, it is important.
Why
for
is size not important, Alan?
it's important for enterprise, Jeremy?
Yeah, SAS 6G, it's only, 1.2 gigabytes per second max?
What?
How much is the highest version of SAS?
Actually, this does not say if it's a single or multi-channel or.
I'm assuming multi. I
Well,
qualify
so the
way
SAS
by assuming,
connector-
but
The SAS connector
Maybe
can
you should
actually be
bullshit
like
some more.
it actually has pins on like the backside of the connector for SAS,
shit.
so you can have like a double channel. So it'd be 2 times 6 gigabit SAS. You'd basically use like 2 channels, and they can gang together and stuff.
And make stormy weather.
However,
Okay, go ahead.
we don't know.
well, the reason that I
if
assume that is because they're 7mm drives, so you can pair them together ridiculously densely.
Yes, that's also very true. And it does have what appears to be not the super caps, but the really high capacity solid state caps on the board, meaning it can have some sort of level of fault tolerance for a power loss.
Those little yellow things.
Yeah, the little yellow things on there. Really technical explanation.
The little yellow dots. They
Thank
make,
God we
they
got
make,
Alan on
They
here.
make data
Well, they-
stay longer.
So they moved away from the super, like remember what was it, the Vertex 2 or the Vertex that had the big honking, super cap
2.
on it?
Caps.
Ken says 2.
Yeah. The industry's moved away from that. They've moved towards just having multiple of the solid state ones, which have just, the technology's improved to the point where the capacity is there. It doesn't need to have a super cap, like a super pipe.
Right
Anymore.
next to the Charcoon.
So,
Yeah.
okay, Alan, maybe this isn't the most interesting storage news. Give me a piece of interesting storage news for this week.
Okay, I've got to go back to this SAS
Oh,
because
Jesus.
wouldn't it have 2 controllers on there, and plus kind of the SAS conglomerator
No.
to be able to do 1.2 gigs of multi-channel.
No, it
No,
has to.
it's just it's still one controller. Well, generally speaking, it's still one controller. It just gangs the 2 links together. It's sort of like multi-link. Jeremy, what's the term for giggy nicks? You can gang them together.
Oh, well, yeah, brain is just not
Yeah,
connecting to that when
basically,
I'm trying
you take
desperately
2 data
to suppress
channels
today's day at
and you
work.
interleave them together, and you're using both pipes at the same time, and you just double the band.
SAS conglomerator.
That's a good conglomerator.
Copyright that.
Where did you get
The
that?
trademark. The
Beats SAS
the
gangbanger.
combinator. The combinator, the
I know,
channelator.
conglomerator sounds so much
Oh, man.
more awesome. So.
Okay, anyway, Alan, so if that wasn't exciting news, give me the exciting news.
No, I didn't see any storage exciting news this week. Really? Sorry.
Where have you been? In a black hole?
Just,
Okay,
Here's
never mind.
Alan,
Nope,
our storage
nope,
editor.
Nope. We're done with storage.
Yep.
We're done with it.
Fire him. Come on. Bingo.
No, we already fired somebody, I think.
You're not going to get bingo because we haven't canceled the show yet.
I think I already fired somebody. Let's talk about another news item. I think this is our last news item. AMD releases the FirePro R5000 PCoIP is what I'm going to call it.
PCoIP.
PCoIP.
That sounds...
Quite.
And Teradisi.
That really almost sounds bad. Anyway, AMD released a new FirePro card. It's all in caps. FirePro. So say it with enunciation and excitement. Anyway, it's a Pitcairn-based GPU, the R5000 is, and it comes with something kind of interesting.
Do tell.
This is not really meant for a workstation per se.
It has a network port on the back of it. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's got a network port over that. It does PC over IP. So what it does is it can shunt the graphic interface, well, the graphics that the GPU is outputting. It goes to the Teradisi, Tera 2240 chip. It essentially is encoded and sent over IP. It goes to the client box that is running, essentially just a keyboard, mouse, and monitor, and decompresses that stream and you have basically, a virtual desktop from a card that is far, far away. And so it's a very high performance
And this
kind of mode.
This is
Oh, go
moving
ahead.
beyond the one-to-one stuff, right?
What do you mean?
This is
No,
actually
not for the card.
virtualization.
No, this is not virtualized. And in fact, you can only connect one client
Okay.
to each single card the way it does. Now, I know NVIDIA's talked about, hey, let's, our GPUs are virtualized. Multiple people can attach to it and, output to it and do the work from it. This is kind of the opposite. Only one client can attach to a card at a time, but this is one of the first ones. It can output to 4 screens essentially through this client. It can do 4 1920 by 1200 monitors or 2 2560 by 1600 monitors. Now, this is made for kind of professional applications, and it is kind of a niche market that they're aiming at, because I think universities are going to use this. I think Ken was talking about U of Cincy was going to not this particular card, but they have big server rooms that have a bunch of stacks of servers. A lot of them are virtualized,
Right.
and just having thin clients in the classrooms and in the labs, and then they leverage the power of these machines. They get more work overall from them, less maintenance, probably better oversight of the systems, and less potential for user created issues.
You don't get better density out of this, though, right? I guess you do, because you can put multiple
John,
cards
I think
in
I
a
call
single
that
server.
this.
Yeah. Put multiple cards into a server, and you can virtualize so that each card is in its own separate VM, and you can do it that way. But it's an interesting technology. It's pretty low latency apparently. It works well in local networks as well as wide area networks, and theoretically, you could do this across the internet. Though you're going to be looking at dramatically lower picture quality
Right.
than if you're on a local
Sure.
giggy network that can do. I think the max speed of this card is 300 megabits per second
Yeah, I see that on the back here.
throughput and output. So, you could do it remotely, but you're not going to get the performance. But this is for like workstation guys, people who are doing heavy duty video editing and they don't need a workstation right next to their desk. Guys doing CAD CAM work. 3D visualization.
Guys that shouldn't be saving stuff to their C drive.
Exactly. They can't save diddly squat to their C drive and destroy the world. So yeah, it's a nice little interesting card. Whether or not it's going to take off, it's going to be kind of strange to see. I know that PC over IP, they say that they're doing like 3 million seats so far around the world. So it's taken off to a small degree. But I mean, they're not going to sell millions and millions of these cards.
I think it's cool. I really do. I like the idea of the virtualization more, where you have one super powerful GPU that can maybe be broken up into multiple. But the one-to-one is at least doing something unique. Ken was hoping we could rebuild all of our streaming systems with this, but it doesn't look like it's going to be the case. Our server room is too close to our production studio anyway, and they get loud. So, I guess that's it for news and reviews for this week. Let me check my watch. Running late, again, as usual. Let's go ahead and get into our hardware, software picks of the week. And I'm going to go last because I don't know.
Got nothing.
I don't know. So, Jeremy.
Yeah,
You're up first.
Ryan, yeah. Poor.
It's very sad.
You don't get new hardware in all the time. It's a horrible position to be in.
It's awful. It's the worst. So much new hardware, I
Unlike
can't pick which
myself,
one.
who am just kicking myself in the head, that I can't realize how we have not united bad taxidermy and PICAXE controllers with step motors before.
Do we have
How-
a video for this?
Have we never thought of this?
Guess
I mean,
not.
it was a science experiment to check aggression in birds, but they took a taxidermied sparrow, added a PICAXE controller, and some step motors to it to wave its wings to check for aggression.
It's kind of weird,
But
man.
the thing is, bad taxidermy has made all of us laugh. Bad
This is good
taxidermy,
taxidermy.
plus motor control could bring trauma to so many people. I think this should take off. I really do think this should take off.
I can almost see the computer PC hardware implications here. I guess there are
PICAXE.
controllers on it. Yeah. All right.
No, it's computer
Better than
controlled.
mine so
You
far.
have to make sure there's a pattern to it. You can't just flap, flap, flap. I'm a bird. No, you got to make it look real. Think of all the children we can traumatize.
Tessellate it, and I think will be great.
I think the best would be, if some guy on death row donates his body to science. Say he was a pimp who committed multiple murders.
So we could play real life QWOP.
Exactly. You could put him on
All
the
I'm
script
asking.
and have
That's
him
all
do
I'm
this
asking.
thing, and people, see how they react. The realm of psychology will expand exponentially with such tools at our fingertips.
Have you guys seen this video?
Is it horrifying?
Yeah.
This is the Quasp cosplay. watch. Oh, I'm sorry. That was
And there's
good.
another square.
Oh. All right,
Josh.
Josh, what is your pick other than that video?
I've probably done this years ago, but these are still some of my favorite headphones of all time. The Grado SR125Is. $150. Yeah, they're a little expensive, a little uncomfortable, but boy, they sound great. And that's what you buy headphones for. You get used to discomfort, you break them in, you break in your head.
You get used to discomfort, is that what you said?
Yes, because pain is weakness leaving the body.
Yes. And
What's
Ryan,
wrong
the rest of us are
from
steadily employed. We got used to pain a long time ago.
Oh, God. Pain is weakness leaving the body. I'll have to write that one down.
That's a good one.
All right.
I
Alan?
should let the pain pass through me.
Alan, you got something cool?
I do. It's a game. There's a link in the video thing.
I am playing
there,
said video.
if Ken can do the thing. So those guys that made that cut the rope game that's like extremely addictive.
Yes.
They made this thing called Cyto, which I'm already becoming addicted to. Just like another little
Should
simple,
work instead.
drag your finger across the screen, little puzzle kind of game. But pretty darn cool in its implementation. And the music's real good, and it's immersive, that sort of thing. It's a nice little thing. It's probably, I think it's only on iOS right now, but it's probably going to come out for all the other platforms, which they usually
Wait,
do.
isn't that Orbit game came out
No.
about 2 years ago?
Nope, it's not.
I know which one you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty
Osmos.
identical. And of course
It's not
it has kind of the
Osmos.
groovy music there, and
Yeah, it looks like the first one that Al fell in love with when he got his iPad.
yeah.
That was Osmos.
Osmos,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah,
it's called.
Osmos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I have my pick. It's an anti-pick.
Uh-oh.
This was sitting behind me, and it reminded me that I didn't like it
It's a
anymore.
battery?
No,
What is-
no.
Just where was that sitting behind you, Ryan?
on the shelf where this TV is.
Yeah.
Monoprice 3x1 enhanced HDMI switch incorporates HDMI technology. Well, no.
Really?
So it's a powered HDMI switch, and the idea is that on the front you have one input, on the back you have two more inputs for a total of three, one HDMI output. And you have a little remote control, an IR remote, and you can switch between 1, 2, and 3, or you have a touch button, you can swipe which direction you want to go, and it'll cycle through it. It's relatively inexpensive, $25 on Monoprice. The problem is it's a piece of crap, because it disconnects. I guess I can't blame it 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's this device. So what we use this for is when we are doing our live streams, and Tom was here, and we had the PC set up, we had to mirror two displays. And rather than try to get the computer to do 4 outputs, what we like to do is just take the 2 outputs and split them on our own. So we have a Geffen dual-link DVI splitter that we use that works flawlessly. And then we have this that was supposed to split the HDMI. One goes to the TV behind us so that Tom and I could work on it, and one goes to Ken's capture system so we can stream it out. The problem is every time we would switch away from this device, we would change the input on it, it would disconnect from the streaming computer. Or no, from the actual computer, right? So it would like lose contact with the HDMI connection, almost like it wasn't. You know how you used to get those PS2 KVMs that didn't emulate the connection to the computer originally, and
So
Almost
you'd
it felt
lose
like
your
it,
mouse
yeah.
and keyboard?
yeah, it would have to like
that's
redetect it
awesome.
every time you switch back. That's what this does with HDMI, which is completely useless. And so I need to find one that does not do that. And we've tried it with AMD cards, we tried it with NVIDIA cards, because at first I thought maybe it was a graphics card kind of incompatibility or something like that, and that apparently is not the case. So we need to get a better version of this to do that, because it shouldn't be that idea. $25. I guess it's okay if you don't really ever need to depend on it.
So you got what you paid for.
You know what? I don't feel that way because I buy so much stuff from Monoprice, and it's almost always great for the price. You know, it's almost always a great quality product for the 69 cents I spent on that adapter or the $1.42 I spent on that networking cable, right, and that kind of stuff. So I would say no, don't buy this if that is your intention. And if you have any recommendations, email them in, and I would like to know what they are. So that is my anti-hardware pick.
Are we ready for a little flashback?
Sure we are.
Name this card. It's a little bit newer, and it's one that lasted
GTX
a
680.
long... What?
Never mind.
Lasted a long time. What is it?
9800 GT.
8800 GTX is the original.
Oh,
I had forgotten how long these cards are. Here, let me see how long this is.
Is it longer than your Titan?
Yeah, it's 30
Or-
inches. Anyway, yeah, 8800 GTX. People had those things for just ages. They bought one for $500 and kept it for 2 years with no problems.
Yeah, and,
I don't know.
And look at the Steam hardware survey and see how many people are still gaming on that, Josh.
Probably quite a few.
Yeah, probably in a
You know what? I think I had that exact card. That's the XFX, right? With like the
Yeah, one of the last generations of XFX NVIDIA cards.
Padre SJ in the chat says that thing is ancient. Oh wait, he has one of those in his computer.
Yes.
Oh, poor guy. That's tough. It's tough. All right, so that's going to wrap up the show for this week, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. We've had laughs. We've learned a lot, I feel like. Josh has laughed at the QWOP cosplay.
Yeah.
Which there are lots of videos of that, Josh. I encourage you to spend the rest of your night just
Watching
watching QWOP. Be careful how you say that. It kind of sounds weird sometimes.
Just a little.
So if you like the show, please help spread the word. PCPer.com/podcast. That's the URL you have to give them. Post it in forums. Just spam the hell out of everybody. Just post that URL wherever you can. The more links, the better, as far as I'm concerned. But seriously, tell some friends if you hang out at hardware forums, if you hang out at a shop, if you go to those computer fairs that they still have these days. They don't really do that anymore. Tell them about PCPer.com/podcast. And if you're listening to this after the fact and you want to watch us stream it live, we do some fun stuff beforehand and afterwards. And I don't really know. There's a chat room and you can come and hang out. Go to PCPer.com/live. You never know who's going to show up in the chat room. We had Padre SJ come in today and talk about his 8800 GTX card in his system and how upset we are for him. So you just never know. 10 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. 7 p.m. Pacific. And you can just go to PCPer.com and look at the schedule on the right-hand side. We have a countdown timer now to our next live events due to popular demand. It's not the best timer, but it's working, and we're modifying it as we go. So we will, I guess we'll close with that. We will see everybody next week. I'm Ryan Shrout.
timer complete. I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
And Josh Walbert.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
I don't know what that means. See you guys.
I didn't enunciate.
No, you
At
did
the
not.
least.